Hi guys, as we read more of our new chapter book, Loser, this week, we're going to be paying more attention to other story elements besides just the characters. Last week I reminded you guys of how to build character trait ideas for some of the characters in the books you're reading on Raz Kids, on your own, and also for our book Loser. And we said some of the things you can do is really pay attention to characters' actions, words, and thoughts to come up with a really accurate or good character trait word for that person. But in fiction stories like Loser, there are other kinds of story elements as well. Let me remind you of a few that we'll talk about more in tomorrow's lesson. One of those story elements is setting. Setting is the time and place that a story happens. Settings can change from chapter to chapter, right? Maybe the character starts at school and then later they're at home. Maybe they go to a store. So setting can change. So it's the time and place of the story. In a short story, there's usually just one setting. Of course, last week we talked about another really important story element, and those are characters. Characters are the people in the story. You usually have one main character and then a lot of minor characters that come throughout the story. We also have problems. Usually there's one big problem in a book, and we call that the central problem. Another word for a problem is a conflict. So a problem is something or someone that gets in your character's way of getting what he or she wants. A good story will have a lot of problems or conflicts. Sometimes each chapter might present a new problem, especially as we're going up that story mountain and trying to make the book more exciting. Another thing that all fiction texts have is a solution. The solution is usually found at the end of a story. So if you're reading a short story on Raz Kids, you're going to find that solution at the end. In a big chapter book like Loser, you might have solutions to smaller problems within a chapter, but those big problems in your book are not going to be solved until the ending or resolution of your book, okay? But solutions are important story element to track because through the solutions, we usually get the theme or the lesson of the story. Remember, and sometimes stories can have more than one theme or lesson, so we need to pay attention to story elements like problems and story elements like solutions. So let's read chapter 6, and you will be asked to do a Google form assessment after you watch this read aloud of some very simple questions about story elements and in today's chapter what you think the setting is, characters, the problem, and in this case, we do have a solution today. Let's dive in. So chapter 6 is called A Wonderful Question. Donald Zinkoff. Before arriving in first grade, he has learned his letters. Some of them, anyway. And of course, he has seen his name from time to time. But he has never traced it on see-through paper. He has never tried to copy it, has never hitched a ride on a pencil point, feeling the shape and movement of his name's letters. D-O-N. Now, as he moves the pencil across the blue lines of the paper, he feels a thrill. He stares at his name, and it is as if he is staring at himself. As if the Donald Zinkoff that was born 6 years ago is here and now, by his own hand, in some small way, being born all over again. We have a word in that paragraph, thrill. It says he felt a thrill when he wrote his name on the see-through paper in his classroom. I wonder what thrill means. What would be a good synonym for thrill? I'm going to read a little bit on. I want you to pay attention to his actions to figure out what that word actually means. He rushes up to the teacher. He shoves the paper in her face. Look, it's me. She takes the paper, and at the top is his name as she has spelled it out for him to copy, as she has done for all of the other students. So, did you notice how he rushed up to the teacher, shoved his paper in her face, and said, "Look, it's me"? And just before that, we heard that he felt a thrill. If you're thinking like I am, that thrill means excitement, you're exactly right. If you feel a thrill, you feel very excited, very happy. Let's keep reading. Below that is his own attempt. But if she didn't know what it was supposed to say, she could never read it. The confusion of pencil lines on the paper makes no more sense than the playpen doodlings of a 2-year-old. Ooh, I'm hearing a little bit of a problem. Now, Zinkoff maybe doesn't know it's a problem, but his teacher, Miss Meeks, is looking at how he wrote out his name, and it says it's just a confusion of pencil lines on paper. It doesn't look like his name at all, and it's more what she would expect to see from a 2-year-old, not a 6-year-old. Let's keep reading. The joy streaming up from his face makes her smile. She lays a hand on his shoulder. To be perfectly precise about it, she says, it is not you, it is your name. Your name is very important. It represents you. What does represent mean, he says. That means it takes your place. It sort of substitutes for you. Even when you yourself are not in a particular place, your name can be there, and so it's important to write it properly. She hands the paper back to him. And to write it properly, you must practice. Use both sides. 100 sides would not have made a difference. Collecting papers before recess, she discovers that she still cannot read Donald Zinkoff's name. Of itself, this is no big deal. He certainly isn't the first sloppy handwriter she has come across. In the past, she has had straight-A students who could not seem to write a legible word. On the other hand, sometimes poor penmanship indicates a problem with motor skills. For the boy's sake, she hopes he is simply sloppy. Recess! At exactly 10 a.m., Zinkoff bursts onto the playground with the other Satterfield 1st, 2nd, and 3rd graders. For the first minute, he is disappointed. He expected recess to be something different and something new. It turns out to be simply free time. Recess turns out to be just another name for life as he has always known it, only shorter. His first recess lasted 6 years. This one is 15 minutes. He means to make the most of it. Wow, they have a lot less recess than we do. He dashes back into school. No one stops him. No one sees him. No one has ever run back into school during recess. He pulls his giraffe hat from the cubby and runs back out to the playground. Hey, there he is, someone shouts. That kid with the hat. In seconds, there's a crowd around him. Kids reaching up to touch the hat. Kids calling, "Can I wear it?" And then the hat is gone, snatched from his head. A boy has it. He's running off with it, jamming it onto his own head. Now other hands are reaching, grabbing, snatching. The hat goes from head to head. The kids are screaming, laughing. A 2nd grader runs off with it. He goes galloping around the playground. The brown and yellow hat bobs on his head like a real giraffe. Zinkoff laughs out loud. He enjoys the spectacle so much that he forgets the hat is his. And then a tall red-haired boy, a 4th grader, stands in front of the galloper holding out his hand. The 2nd grader takes off the hat and hands it over. The red-haired 4th grader looks at the hat carefully. Instead of putting it on his head, he sticks his arm into it all the way up to his shoulder. With his fingers inside the head, he makes the giraffe nod and seem to talk. He walks over to one of his equally tall friends. He makes the giraffe's mouth clamp onto his friend's nose. Everybody laughs. Zinkoff laughs. Even the recess duty teacher laughs. The boy turns to the 1st graders, who are keeping their distance. Whose hat is this? Zinkoff runs forward. He trips over a foot and falls flat on his face. Everybody laughs. Zinkoff laughs. He comes up to the red-haired boy. He stands much closer than a 1st grader normally gets to a 4th grader. He looks directly up into the tall boy's face and proudly announces, "It's my hat." The boy smiles. He shakes his head slowly. "It's my hat." Now I want you to pause for a moment. How would you react? I know I probably would have reacted a lot differently than Zinkoff. So far, we have boys stealing Zinkoff's hat and running around with it instead of yelling at them or going to tell a teacher or telling the recess monitor or getting in their face and saying, "Give it back." Zinkoff is just laughing, having fun with the whole thing, just watching people have fun. Zinkoff just stares up. He is fascinated by the boy's face. He has never seen a face smile and shake itself no at the same time. And then he realizes that apparently there has been a mistake. Perhaps the tall boy was at a zoo on the same day Zinkoff was there. Perhaps he bought the giraffe hat first and left it behind by mistake. Whatever, there is no mistaking what the boy said. "It's my hat." Zinkoff is sad. He has really come to love the hat that he thought was his. But he is not sad too because he can tell how happy it makes the tall boy to get his hat back. That's a little strange to me, right? Usually if I have something that I know is mine, I know it's mine. Zinkoff came to school with this hat. We know from the last chapter he brought it from home. And this tall fourth grader is saying, "That's not your hat, it's my hat." I think most first graders would say, "No, you're lying to me, give me my hat back. My mom bought that for me." But instead, Zinkoff is saying, well, maybe the boy's right. Maybe it is his hat. Maybe it's not my hat. I don't want to make this boy sad, so maybe I'll just let him keep it. It's kind of a different reaction than you or I might have to this. The boy is still smiling down at him. Zinkoff already knows that smiles do not like to be alone, so he sends his best smile up to join the one above. "Okay," he says cheerfully. The smile on the tall boy's face twists and changes. Zinkoff does not know it, but he has just cheated the boy. The boy expected Zinkoff to make a fuss, to try to get his hat back, maybe even cry or pitch a fit. The boy loves to see first graders pitch fits. It's fun. And now he is cheated of his fun, cheating by this smiling, agreeable little insect in front of him. The tall boy takes off the hat. He pokes Zinkoff in the forehead with one of the giraffe's horns. "It's not mine, you dummy." He wags his head and snickers. He turns to his friend. First graders are so dumb. His friends laugh. He throws the hat to the ground. As he walks off, he makes sure to step on it. Now, if I were to come up with a character trait for this fourth grade boy, he is a cruel, mean boy. My evidence for that are some of his actions and words, right? So he says the words, "It's not mine, you dummy." That is definite evidence that this boy is cruel and mean. He also says, "First graders are so dumb." Also words to back up that idea. And then what about that action? Did you guys just catch that he threw the hat on the floor and stepped on it before he walked away? Let's look at how Zinkoff reacts to this. Zinkoff picks up the hat. Pieces of dirt cling to the fuzzy surface. Suddenly, the tall boy turns and looks back. Zinkoff drops the hat in case the boy wishes to step on it again. But the boy only laughs and goes away. He dropped the hat on the ground so the boy could step on it again if he wanted to. Zinkoff's mother is waiting for him after school. Oh, the setting just changed. Did you guys notice how we were at school that entire chapter until now? We were at his school in his first grade classroom and outside for recess. Now the setting's changing in the middle of the chapter. Zinkoff's mother is waiting for him after school. Now we're at his house. All the way home, he jabbers about his incredible first day. Do you like your teacher? She asks him. I love my teacher, he says. She called us young citizens. She pats the top of his head, which makes him almost as tall as her. 1,000 congratulations to you. He beams. Do I get a star? I believe you do. His mother always carries with her a plastic baggie of silver stars. She takes one out, licks it, and presses it onto his shirt. There. As he bows his head to look at the star, the hat topples from his head. His mother picks it up. She puts it on her own head. Zinkoff howls and claps. She wears it the rest of the way home. Later, Zinkoff sits at the front step waiting for his father to come home from work. His father is a mailman. Oh, I have a nice connection. My dad was a mailman for 25 years. He walks all day on his job, but drives to and from the post office in his clunker. The Zinkoffs cannot afford a new car, so Mr. Zinkoff buys used ones. Every time he buys one, he gets excited. She's a real honey bug, he says. And then, a month or two later, every time, the honey bug starts to go bad. A retread tire loses its rubber. The carburetor starts coughing. The belt breaks. He keeps patching it up with duct tape, wire, and chewing gum. Pretty soon everything is patches except Mr. Z's faith in his honey bug. The day always comes when Mrs. Z whispers to her son, "It's another clunker." Zinkoff giggles and nods, but he never says the word clunker to his father, as it might hurt his feelings. It is never long after Mrs. Z says clunker that the car dies, usually on a rainy morning on the way to work. The car simply refuses to move another inch over the face of this earth, and even Mr. Z knows that it is beyond the help of even 1,000 new plugs of chewing gum. The next day he gets rid of it and begins shopping for a new honey bug. This cycle has happened 4 times so far, which is why Zinkoff, mother and son, between the two of them, call the current car Clunker 4. Zinkoff hears Clunker 4 long before he sees it. It makes a high squeal that reminds him of elephants in the movies. He runs to the curb as the car rounds the corner and rattles to a stop. As usual, there is a smell of something burning in the air. "Daddy," he cries out, jumping onto his father's arms. "I went to school." "And a star to prove it," says his father, hoisting him into the house. Zinkoff talks about his first day at the dinner table and after dinner and right up until bedtime. As always, the last thing his mother says to him at night is, "Say your prayers." While she hides his giraffe hat in the trunk with the comforters and fancy tablecloth, Zinkoff transfers the star from his school shirt to his pajamas. He climbs into bed and tells God all about his first day. Then he tells the stars. At this time in his life, Zinkoff sees no difference between the stars in the sky and the stars in his mother's plastic baggie. He believes that stars fall from the sky sometimes, and that his mother goes around collecting them like acorns. That definitely sounds like something a first grader would think. He believes she has to use heavy gloves and dark sunglasses because the fallen stars are so hot and shiny. She puts them in the freezer for 45 minutes, and when they come out, they are flat and silver and sticky on the back and ready for his shirts. This makes him feel close to the unfallen stars left in the sky. He thinks of them as his nightlights. As he grows drowsy in bed, he wonders which is greater, the number of stars in the sky or the number of school days left in his life. It's a wonderful question. Well, despite the boys bothering him, it sounds like Zinkoff had a really great first day of school, or at least he thinks it went really, really well. When you are done watching this video, make sure you fill out the Google form and go back to the assignment page and click in the big turn in button when you're all finished with the Google form quiz. And I will see you guys tomorrow, and we'll talk more about some of these important story elements. Take care.